Welcome to the Solid Verbal. The Solid Verbal.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I've heard so many players say, well, I want to be happy. You want to be happy for a day? Eat a steak.
It's that woo-woo!
And now, Dan and Ty.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal, boys and girls. My name is Ty Hildebrand. Joining me over there. Technically, when you're listening to this, he's on his honeymoon. But since we're recording, since we're proactive like that, Dan Rubenstein is with us once more. Sir, how are you?
I'm good. I'm going to give myself some future advice.
Yeah.
And that is, great job getting married.
Yeah,
and,
good job. Great
you're
wedding.
On your honeymoon. Yeah. Oh,
great
fantastic.
Wedding. Enjoyed it thoroughly.
Oh, glad to hear it. We just loved having you, Ty.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
You and Kate were wonderful. And right now I'm on my honeymoon, and I'll just flew it up. Just keep drinking and keep stretching and get some sun, open the curtains, and realize this is you living your best life. And congratulations. Self.
Where are you now? What country?
So what is today, Ty?
Today is Thursday. We're releasing this.
Thursday,
June 1st.
So I am in Greece.
Oh, beautiful.
I think you can smell the feta cheese everywhere, and the grape leaves and the salty, briny ocean air. It's wonderful, Ty.
Well, may this podcast be the Grecian formula for all that ails you and all that concerns you about college football. We will be back at some point in the next couple weeks to talk in person again. But for the interim, you and I are pre-recording a Q&A show. We've been trying to do these once a month because people always send in cool questions, and we try to rotate the non-college football theme. Mm-hmm. What did we go with today? Restaurants?
Restaurant etiquette, specifically. What to do in certain situations when you find yourself not knowing where to go. Not restaurant-wise, but once you're in the restaurant, when you have to make a life decision, what do I do? We're here to help.
Great questions that came in. Very, very poignant questions here, Dan.
A lot of specific ones. I love that.
Very good questions. We'll get into those in a little bit. Also, a bunch of football questions here. Mm-hmm. Don't forget, you can always email us at solidverbal@gmail.com or find us on Facebook or on Twitter. We did have a few questions that referenced this article, and I did want to start here before we get into our Q&A, but a really cool article that you guys over at SB Nation put out here announcing, I don't know if it's so much candidacy, a vision, whatever you want to call it, Bill Connelly for college football commissioner.
Yes.
It was published on May the 22nd, and he puts forth 9 cool ideas for fixing college football, or his vision for college football as we move forward. So a student-athlete bill of rights, modernizing amateurism. Mm-hmm. What else? Fixing recruiting, expanding the playoff, bringing back the damn video game.
NCAA series, yeah.
Promotion and relegation. A bunch of interesting concepts and visions here that Bill puts forth. I am ready to sign my name on the dotted line to get behind this. I'm excited. Was there anything that you saw in here,
right,
that you said, yes, I either love that, no, I really hate that? What was your reaction to this?
So my reaction was, because by now everybody should know we love Bill C. and how deeply he gets into college football. It's almost all positive. There's nothing really negative. It's just some of the things I look at as being sort of a little unrealistic, and maybe it's the scheduling thing, which I like the idea as any sport should run like the way Bill wants college football to run. But because of the way, and I'll be specific, like he wants pod scheduling, like you always play the same 3 teams. He wants a bracket buster in the middle of the season to sort of shake things up, and we get sort of better matchups because of it. Everything he is positioning with his candidacy as for scheduling and as for the organization of the sport makes a lot more sense than the way it's constituted now. The only thing is, when you start scheduling and you start going relegation, it chips away at the sort of the context you have for Notre Dame or for Oregon or for Texas A&M or for Louisville or for USC, whatever. Whereas if you're not all of a sudden playing a lot of the same teams every year, then you lose a lot of context. So it's like Arizona is not a rival of Oregon, But every year Oregon plays Arizona, I'm flooded with the context and memories of that matchup.
Right.
And that's what it sort of seasons it in a unique way that perhaps a more ambitious, futuristic way of scheduling and organizing the sport doesn't. If you were one of the examples he used was with relegation, specifically, like, maybe watching a Virginia game at the end of the season wasn't all that fun for anybody, Virginia fans included. But if there was relegation on the line, so if, Virginia was going to have to go down and become a group of 5 school and not an ACC school, they were playing against an FCS school or something like that. If Virginia gets relegated, that's such a huge blow to I think Virginia's bottom line. And you start to sort of inflict some wounds into the sport that might be unintended in some cases. So that's what sort of jumped out to me, that in a perfect world, in a vacuum, all of this pretty much works and would make the sport more fun and higher quality. I just don't know that you can unweave a lot of the fabric that's in place already.
If you were to start tomorrow, day one, new college football, you could put a lot of this stuff in. The problem now is not that these aren't good ideas. The problem is that there is obviously a contractual obligation on so many different fronts to continue the status quo.
Sure.
Relegation, promotion, by the way, for those that aren't tracking, it's a lot like they do in English soccer, or really in any soccer league, where the bottom 3 or however many teams at the bottom of said league, said conference, go down to a tier 2 league the following year if they don't do well enough to continue on in their present division. And in some cases, if you're in like a tier 2 league and you finish in the top 2, well, then maybe you get to bump up and play against the big boys the next season.
Sure. Like Boise State would have been like a Pac-10 school, a Pac-12 school with all the success they had by the time they were killing everybody in the WAC and Mountain West.
Or even like a North Dakota State might have progressively been able to work their way up into a top tier conference. It's an interesting concept. I like the concept. My thing with college football has always been the issue is that the football teams are tied to an academic institution. If you could somehow find a way to decouple those two, I think you'd solve a lot of problems. But we're so far into it now, and obviously the financial stakes are so high that that's never anything we could find a way to do. There's just no way.
I think the fact that it starts with the student-athlete Bill of Rights to just sort of organize everything in terms of what is availed to the players playing college football, especially on a high level, makes a lot of sense, because we came from a sport that was like, okay, well, the Pac-10 is doing this, the ACC is doing this, the Big 12 or the Big 8 or the SWC, whatever. There used to be like these mini sports that just happen to be playing, mini conferences, or mini regions that happen to be doing the same thing. Whereas now everything is so much more nationalized and it seems a lot more homogenous with the TV deals. Every conference appears on one of 2 networks basically right now. So everybody has access to eyeballs. Everybody is they're hiring each other's coaches. It's a lot less regional than it used to be. So centralizing the rights of the players, of the labor, it makes sense. And Bill brings up the points of healthcare, of, the right to graduate scholarships, guaranteeing undergraduate scholarships, safety guidelines, transfer rules that are set in place that everybody has to follow. And then the sort of Olympic style amateurism, which is what he is pitching, which basically says, and Ty, correct me if I'm wrong, it's that you have the right to earn based on your likeness. And I am all for this. And the obvious counter argument is, well, then, the schools with the most money and the boosters with the most money are always going to get the best players, which is how it already is.
Yeah, right.
It's just how it is already. And it would just be a way for schools to not have the burden of being creative to pay players and to let players go out and seek compensation themselves, which seems reasonable.
Well, and that becomes then the foundation to actually bring back the video game, as
Correct.
It says here in his 4th bullet point. We'll put the link in the show description here so that if you haven't seen it, you can go out and check it out. But a lot of really good stuff here from Bill. I suspect this is something that you and I can discuss throughout the course of the entire offseason, because there is a lot of meat here. But I like the fact that he gets into scheduling, both division scheduling and non-conference scheduling, and talks about how that could be an issue and it could be resolved. He also talks about the games being too long and the adverse effects that has on fans watching the game, also taking part in the game. A lot of really good stuff here, but at least as of now, I support the cause for Bill C as college football commissioner. And the biggest point, perhaps in all of this, certainly one of the most controversial points, which we will get into when we get to our Q&A here momentarily, is the topic around expanding the college football playoff.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. In the meantime, though, we have two great sponsors that we do need to discuss.
Love hearing.
Before we get into your questions, I've talked about Harry's before, Dan. You know I use Harry's. I tried to switch to one of those electric razors, didn't do it for me.
You looked marvelous at the wedding tie. Very
Why? I appreciate that. I appreciate that, but I'm now a Harry's guy forevermore. I would urge people to go out there and check out what Harry's has to offer because Father's Day is just around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how dads are. Dads are impossible to shop for. You know, you can only get a dad a tie so many times or, you know, a sleeve of golf balls. I don't know, whatever he's into. But our friends over at Harry's, they've got a special offer for you and dad that I think everyone's going to love. Go to harrys.com, HARRYS.com/solid and get $5 off one of their shave sets, including a limited edition Father's Day set, which comes with a storm gray razor handle, a chrome razor stand, foaming, shave gel, 3 replacement blades, and a travel cover. The travel cover, by the way, very underrated. And it's all packaged in a sleek, giftable box, Dan. I like Harry's. I think Dad will too.
Mm-hmm.
They're all about a great shave at a fair price. And they've got a 100% quality guarantee. So you get a full refund if you are not happy for whatever reason. It does make the perfect Father's Day gift. I'm giving them away as we speak, so I'm excited about it.
Wow.
Again, the offer is harrys.com/solid. Redeem your special offer. Fans of the Verbal will get $5 off one of the shave sets. Limited time only. Act now. harrys.com/solid. $5 off. Support Harry's. Support the Solid Verbal.
It's so simple.
And last but not least, we mentioned Proper Cloth on last week's show, Dan.
We did.
It's a custom fitting dress shirt. Sometimes you buy a shirt off the rack, it's too tight, sleeves are too long, something's off, you got to get it tailored.
It's pouchy in areas.
Yeah, you don't want that.
You want to look like your best self.
Finding a dress shirt can be hard, especially if you want one that fits well. Ordering a custom fitted shirt's never been easier thanks to Proper Cloth. Go to propercloth.com. You can easily create a custom shirt size in seconds. All you got to do is answer 10 easy questions. It's foolproof. You don't even need the measuring tape, Dan. You turned me on to this. I went out shortly after our last show. I ordered one for myself.
Nice.
So I'm getting in on the fun as well. They have 500 fabric styles to choose from, premium Italian and my favorite Japanese, as well as business and casual styles. They all start at $85 per shirt. Best of all, they guarantee a perfect fit. So if you get one, doesn't fit, let them know. They'll remake it free of charge. They are the highest rated shirt maker on the Googles, at least at last check, and I'm sure it hasn't changed in a week. Proper Cloth. Even GQ calls them their favorite online custom shirt maker. They are the future of shirt stands. So stop wearing shirts that don't fit. Start looking your best in a custom fitted shirt. Go to propercloth.com/solid today. Enter the gift code SOLID, SOLID, and save $20 on your first shirt.
I've just decided that I want to somehow become a judge of the most comfortable shirt contest because that's what you just made it sound like. And I have a lot of thoughts on shirts, Ty. I'm ready to go.
Let's do it.
Congratulations, Skippy. You've got mail.
You've got mail on the Solid Verbal.
Dan, as often as we can, and now once a month in the off season here, as we've got less college football to talk about, we do our best to pay homage to those of you who write in solidverbal@gmail.com, to those of you who tweet us, who send us comments on the Facebooks and beyond. We talk a little bit about college football. We talk a little bit tonight about restaurant etiquette. But let's start on the college football side. And let's first go to Augusto to dovetail nicely with our previous discussion about Bill Connelly's proposals, his vision to try and modernize college football. Augusto writes in and says that an 8-team playoff would radically change college football for the worst. Similar to college basketball, the season would not be as important and games would lose some sense of urgency. It'll allow one or more 2-loss teams to get in. And this past year, as an example, might have allowed for a 3-loss team to get into the playoff. If 2 or 3 losses gets in, urgency of regular season is effectively gone. That's from Augusto. Not so much a question.
This is a generally held viewpoint for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Ty, do you agree with this line of thinking that 8 dilutes the interest in a college football postseason because it is too many teams? I would argue that 8 out of whatever 130 is different than 64 out of 300, which are 68 out of 300. The percentages are sort of different in college basketball. But do you agree with this line of thinking that the season would take on less importance with a bigger playoff?
I don't think it diminishes the significance of those games down the stretch or at any point in the season if now we've got 8 instead of 4. I just don't buy it. It's not college basketball. As you said, we're not picking 68. We're still only picking 8. And so the stakes are still pretty high unless you're like, the number 1 team. Maybe you go out and get blown out. All of a sudden, your candidacy to be part of that expanded playoff is somewhat in question. You're still playing for things that matter. The degrees might be a little bit off compared to what we're used to now in a 4-team playoffs. So no, I've never really bought into the whole urgency thing.
So the thing that stands out to me about this argument is, on the surface, it seems reasonable, but you think about the context of actual college football seasons and what teams go through. And sometimes you get, and by sometimes I mean, it feels like every year, you get a team like 2016 USC. They come out the gates, they look completely overmatched, but then they switch quarterbacks up, they get into a rhythm, and all of a sudden by the end of the season, they've won the Rose Bowl, they have a presumptive number 1 overall NFL draft pick, and the idea is teams can greatly improve. And we're adding, I think, if we go from a 4-team playoff to an 8-team playoff, we're adding, I believe, 4 games. Is that correct? 4 total games in the playoff?
Sure.
So 4 more football games. I think it's okay to make peace with the fact that college football is a TV show. We all sort of like the fact that we can watch whatever college football game we'd like with minimal effort. And that's because of TV availability and TV money. And it means more good matchups at the end of the year. 2016 didn't feel like we had a lot of good matchups throughout the year for whatever reason. It was just one of those years. But this basically guarantees a matchup like, I don't know, Penn State playing against, let's see, you had Michigan and Penn State being 5 and 6 last year, right? So you have Penn State against Alabama, or you Penn State against Clemson. You have Michigan against Oklahoma. Whatever the case may be, you get more good football at the end of the year with teams that, even if they don't at the end of the year have that clear argument that they deserve to be in the national championship conversation, you're still getting a top tier level of additional games and entertainment. So I can't look down at 8 games as being like a death knell for the sport that only has 12 regular season games annually to begin with. That's all we get, 12 regular season games. So it's such a low number that I think people are going to stick with the sport until maybe it goes to 68.
16, I think, would be an interesting argument. When you get to 16, maybe then this argument holds a little bit more water. But at 8, I think is big enough, even 6.
NFL's got 12 of what, 32?
Yeah.
That's a chunk. People still watch games.
If you get to 6, if you get to 8, you can effectively, if you want to, solve the issue about Power 5 conference champions not getting into the playoff.
Yeah.
And I think from my standpoint, that might be the most important argument for it. Let's make sure that we have the best from each conference represented in the national championship playoff, whatever system that is. So,
Next question.
Alan, has the national backlash against Lamar Jackson been so intense that he has become underrated? Oh my gosh. Okay. Is there backlash against Lamar Jackson that I was not aware of?
I don't know that it's backlash as much as it is him flying under the radar because of his maybe the last third of 2016, where he did struggle. And the way they finished the bowl game wasn't great. He struggled, but also he had a particularly bad offensive line in front of him. You know, they lose something like 30-9, 29-9 to LSU in the bowl game. They lose their final 3 games. You know, the Houston game was sort of everybody watch, you know, the Houston defense against Lamar Jackson, and that was sort of a mess for him as well. I would say he is too far underneath the radar for somebody who looked like a Heisman winner the first half of the season with how he played against Florida State and Clemson. And I would say he is poised to have another big year. I have the schedule in front of me, Ty. They have North Carolina and Clemson 2 of the first 3 weeks of the season. So he will be able to make a statement early on if he is too far beneath the radar.
Still only a sophomore last season. You got to give him a little bit of a chance to grow. On top of that, though he did sputter down the stretch, still put up incredible numbers. 3,500 yards passing. I think I saw that if he were a running back, just in terms of pure yardage, he would have been 10th overall, had something like 1,570 some odd rushing yards. So really a versatile player out there. I think backlash is too strong a word. But I agree to the extent that all I'm hearing so far this young offseason is Sam Darnold. I'm hearing a lot about Josh Rosen coming back. I'm hearing a lot about what Jared Stidham can do, what Shane Bichelle can do.
Sure.
What Jake Browning is going to do in another year in the Chris Peterson system.
JT Barrett and Kevin Wilson system.
What's going to happen at Clemson? What will happen with DeAndre Francois taking another step forward at FSU? Brandon Wimbush at Notre Dame. Strangely, it seems like all of those are bigger stories than what Lamar Jackson's going to do. By the way, the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, what he is going to do now in another year at Louisville. So to that degree, I would certainly agree with you, Alan. Backlash, though, going a little bit too far for me.
Yeah, you're right, Ty. I've heard multiple times in multiple Wheel of Fortune studio audiences, it's just Wimbush.
That's right.
Wimbush.
Everyone's talking Brandon Wimbush.
Can't get enough Wimbush.
Iron Man football.
Yes.
Is this a person or an entity? Who knows?
Maybe both, Ty.
Oregon loved the 2-point conversion / swinging gate under Mark Helfrich, and fans cringed. If Notre Dame onside kicked every kickoff, would Ty have a meltdown? Would Dan laugh? So this is kind of a discombobulated question here.
Yeah.
He's drawing reference to the fact that Oregon liked to do their little swinging gate thing under Mark Helfrich.
Right.
And he's effectively asking if Notre Dame onside kicked every kickoff, would Ty have a meltdown? I probably not initially. Because as you know,
talk yourself into it very
I would
quickly.
talk myself in. There's a lot of mad scientist in me.
Sure.
I would probably find some data point to help back up the consistent onside kick for a while. When things went south, then I'd have the meltdown. I have to believe you would be your normal passive-aggressive self throughout the entire process. Is that accurate?
It is, but I do have like an asterisk. I have a caveat.
Okay.
And that is, if Notre Dame decided to do what, I don't remember the name of the high school in Arkansas, and never punt,
right.
and have that be their thing. Like it's Chip Long, the new offensive coordinator?
Yes, from Memphis.
So if he were just saying, you know what, this is what we're going to do. We're going to give everybody more reps. We're going to play at least 4 downs on every single drive. And that's just the way it's going to be. It doesn't matter unless we're backed up like inside the 5 or something like that.
Right.
We're going to give ourselves 25% more plays to play with theoretically, and we're going to see what happens. I would probably secretly and maybe even overtly on this show kind of be happy about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
If the mathematical scales were tipped in favor of Notre Dame intentionally, be like, you know what? That's kind of cool.
All right. Josh writes in, most disrespectful head coach when it comes to on-field tactics. I don't mean dirty. I mean like gonna embarrass you in multiple ways. Good question here. So that kind of circumstance, that kind of coach that wouldn't be afraid to hang 80 on you. The first one that comes to mind is Brett Bielema because I know he's done it.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that comes to mind for you off the top of your head?
Harbaugh a little bit, even though he puts in his backups. There's an element of just squeezing the life out of somebody that I can't help but admire. Chip Kelly did it at Oregon for a long time.
I was going to say Chip Kelly did it. Urban Meyer has done it.
You look back at Jim Harbaugh against Pete Carroll. What's your deal? Right. It's been proven in multiple places. Urban Meyer, to a lesser extent, but certainly, you don't get to where he is without having that sort of murdering mentality. I think Tom Herman has it to a certain degree with the trick plays and the tempo. And I'm trying to think who else. Brett Bielema is the great example.
I think Bobby Petrino.
I like the Paul Johnson. That's the paper clips thing. He is disrespectful in the best way.
Yeah, right.
I like that. When Georgia Tech teams are humming, even Navy, that's disrespectful. What they do to teams when they just can't quite figure out that flex bone, whatever it is they're running. It's great. I love a good sort of not petty, but just driving the point home option coach. That's pure college football bliss.
All right, very quickly, Jared writes in, with the addition of Thomas Tyner.
Yeah.
Does Oregon State have the best backfield in the Pac-12?
So Thomas Tyner, former five-star recruit, running back, ran for 1 million yards in high school from Portland, went to the University of Oregon, was on the team that appeared in the national championship game in 2014. I think started in 2013. Took a medical retirement because of nagging injuries, has decided to come back and play for Oregon State, who also has Ryan Nall, who was really good down the stretch for the Beavs. I still don't think it's the case that they have the best duo backfield because of the unknown quantity of Thomas Tyner and if he'll be in shape and if he'll be, have that same killer instinct. I think what's in Seattle is pretty impressive. What's in Eugene is incredibly impressive. And I am optimistic about USC's backfield as well. So I think those schools are ahead right now.
Okay. And finally on the football front.
Yes.
As we fade now into some less serious topics.
Mm-hmm.
We got this email a couple weeks ago, about 4 weeks ago. And the second I saw it, I knew it was something we had to do.
Okay.
This one's from Mike. Ty and Dan, I've been listening to your show since early 2009. I tell everyone I can about the show. I even finally bought a shirt. He says, I've always loved the Pop-A-Shot style football arcade games. But whenever I looked to buy one, they were always over $1,000.
Oof.
So I decided to spend $2,000 and 200 man hours to build my own. My game is complete with field goals, punts, interceptions, sudden death overtime, and 1 and 2 player game modes. This is a man after my own heart, Dan.
Yeah, of course.
Now, for the reason I'm writing in, I was wondering if you guys would like the honor of doing an intro when our game starts up.
Wow.
15 to 30 seconds of pregame audio. You have complete and total freedom to say whatever you want. Just no Ohio State stuff, as I am a Michigan fan. So, Dan.
Yeah, I'm taking this all in. So we get to be the voices, the introductory voices.
We get to be the
game.
introductory voices, and I think we should do something on the fly, because that's what you and I do best.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, since he's a Michigan fan, we need to welcome people to Michigan Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And then we need to find some way to call out former Michigan stars. And we need to do it in the cheesiest possible way, because this is, after all, an arcade game, and those are typically cheesy intros.
True.
So I'm thinking something to the effect of, like, welcome back to Michigan Stadium. Oh, Manningham, do we have a game for you here today?
Oh, no. That's where you're going with this?
Just something very cheesy, yeah.
All right. So first of all, if he can edit this audio, then he can play around with whatever we're about to say.
Sure.
Just space it around. So, welcome! I'm glad I got to be the first voice, Ty.
I was going to say, you need to do the Sirius XM voice that people know and love. Maybe the John U. Bacon voice, because he's a Michigan man.
I can't do that to his game. He's spent too much time on this game. So if I'm going to do the radio voice, it'd be like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this arcade unit. This is Dan and Ty, and we are excited for you to compete.
Welcome back to Michigan Stadium. Oh, Manningham, do we have a game for you here today? What in the name of Tim Biakabatuka will happen is anyone's guess. Is the next Brady Greasy or Gerbach on the field today? It's time to find out.
That was really good. Ty.
Thank you. I just made that up on the fly.
Yeah.
I'm scribbling things down on a pad here.
Here, how about this one? Ryan Mallett's not going to be transferring away from this fun. Does that work? This is the game that Braylon Edwards won't drop the ball in. I'm trying to do like a half NBA Jam. I don't know where I'm really going with the voice.
We could really have fun with this. We can go shake.
Is that Elvis Gerbach? Nobody knows.
All right, Mike. Tell us what you can do with that. Let us know if you want us to try again. We need to talk about restaurant etiquette here.
All right. What do you have?
You're the restaurateur. Why don't you tell me where you want to go here?
I'm not sure you know what restaurateur means, but let's start with... Okay, so this question I asked around the office and it got the most responses.
Okay.
So this one is about double dipping, okay?
Oh, good one.
So this comes to us from Brother Mazzone. Shout out to The Wire. Double dipping with significant others only. If not, how close do you have to be? Family, very good friends, don't care. I will extend this to just in general, Ty.
Yeah.
What is your stance on double dipping? And if it is a positive, did I say double dicking?
Yeah.
And if it is a positive pro stance, what is your strategy? What is your ethos when it comes to double dipping across all food sizes and types?
If you're with people you don't know, you can't do it.
At all.
You can't do it. No.
No matter the size of food.
No. I'm not a double dipping fan when you're with people that you don't know well.
So
Okay.
if you're with, let's say you're with my family out in California.
No.
And we order queso dip.
I wouldn't do it. I would not do it. No.
You wouldn't. What about flipping a corner?
Well,
or something?
this is where I was going to get into the strategy of the double dip.
Right, but like if you're not, so you're saving your flipping for close ones.
I don't want to be remembered as the double dipper if I'm with people that can't disavow me entirely.
Right.
So if I'm with your family, perhaps, at some gathering, say a wedding, if I'm with other friends that I don't see as often, no, I'm never gonna take that risk and potentially be labeled as a double dipper. Have people think I was raised by wolves. What I would say is if I'm with family, that's when I think you go modified double dip. You never dip the end of the chip back in that you bit off.
Of course not.
You got to flip it around, do a 180, and then flip that back half of the chip. In that case, I've done that multiple times, and I would advise it. I think it's it's a solid maneuver.
I will echo our pal Ryan Nanny, and his counter to this was, so why would you not double dip a chip in the first place? What is it about? What are you worried about, putting into the universe by double dipping a chip in general?
Some germ related, some
spittle, whatever.
Yeah, something germ related. Yeah.
On a surface as small as a tortilla chip, are you not worried that as you bite into one side of the tortilla chip that you're not going to get things on the other side of said tortilla chip, not even an inch further down the way?
Well, the counter argument, if you really want to make one, is that you're holding the opposite end of the chip with your bare hands.
Exactly. Your hands are there too.
When you're dipping it into the salsa or whatever.
Exactly right.
Whatever dip. So, yeah, I understand where he's coming from. And he's not wrong to make that argument. But the optics of biting off one end of the chip and then sticking it back into the communal dip pool is not something that I generally want to be caught doing.
Here's the thing, Ty. I live in New York. I live in New York City. I live in a communal pool.
This is true. Very true.
So at a certain point, we're all just sort of in it together, and let's all dip our mozzarella sticks into this communal marinara. Like, that's just how it's working. And if I think you also have to judge who you're around. If you're around people that you generally regard as being hygienic enough, I'm okay with the flip. Marinara, take a bite with your mozzarella with marinara, flip, and just go at it again.
Okay.
I think it's okay.
Where are we going next?
Next, let's go to... Oh, we have a lot of people asking about waiting for food to arrive. Okay. Steven wants to know, if the orders come out at different times, do you wait for everybody's food to get there, or do you just start digging in?
I think you wait unless the person or persons who are waiting for their meals give you consent to just go about and eat your meal. Oh, don't wait for me. Just go ahead and eat.
Right.
That
I
makes
never
it
understood the waiting.
That
in
makes
the
it
first
okay.
place.
But yeah, it's just one of those like social norms that we're kind of programmed to follow. I haven't fully understood it for a long time, but I do abide by it.
Right. I think it's rare that somebody else orders food, doesn't get the food, and it just never shows up. It's generally there within a minute or two. We're there to eat. We all understand that we've gone to this restaurant to eat. And you put a club sandwich in front of me and you ask me to wait, it's tricky. The club sandwich, I guess, is a bad example. You put in front of me some fajitas. Like, I am going to consume these fajitas while warm. I'm not waiting for your club salad. Like, that's just not acceptable. I will always say when I don't receive my food, of course, eat. And I'll say that as soon as the plates go down. I don't wait to see for that minute or two to see if my food will come before saying that. Upon plates going down, I make it clear that I want everybody to eat because I believe in the golden rule, Ty, do unto others as others do unto you.
I also think the cheaper the meal, the less time you're required to wait. So
Sure.
if you're going to like Chick-fil-A with friends and you happen to order first and find a seat, I think it's fine if you decide to just dig into your spicy chicken sandwich.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I've got a corollary question, though, for an actual restaurant.
Okay.
This is from Ryan.
Yes.
If your waiter forgot to put in your order and then lied about why it was taking so long, what's the correct level of anger?
Ooh.
So this happened to me like 3 weeks ago at a restaurant. I ordered pizza, and pizza cooks pretty quickly.
Sure.
I was with the Solid Fiance and a friend of hers. I think her friend ordered a piece of fish, and the Solid Fiance ordered like roast chicken.
Okay.
So in back of my head, I'm thinking, there's no way my pizza's coming out in a sort of untimely fashion. Pizza took like 20. I kept getting apologies from the waitress. It took 20, 25 minutes longer.
Wow.
And I got some excuse like, oh, well, it's from a separate area of the kitchen, and sometimes there's always not great communicate. Like, I'm looking at it like I've worked in a restaurant. I know exactly what happened. Like, my ticket fell, or somehow the order got misplaced, because it doesn't take that long to make pizza. When the pizza came out, it was scalding, Ty. It was right out of the oven. It wasn't sitting around at all. So I didn't say anything at that point to the waitress. I just kind of wanted to, like, I was hungry. My pizza finally came. I ate it. But I saw our friend Peter Schrager in that restaurant.
Okay.
And he tweeted at me that he saw me. That's how good of friends we are, Ty.
Right. You guys are very close.
We only
very close
tweeted
friends.
each other.
Yeah.
But I was talking about the pizza, and I posted a picture of the pizza, and the restaurant saw the tweets, and I had said something about like pizza was amazing, but the service was not great. And the place saw it, and they were like, let me know the next time you come in. We'll take care of you.
Wow.
So that's how I dealt with it after the fact and on social media, like a grown up.
Okay.
What would you do if, like, very clearly your order of your steak à poivre?
Yeah, thank
is
you.
clearly
I could never say that word.
Steak à poivre is clearly being cooked at the same rate as everybody else's order, but like it just doesn't show up for 10, 15, 17 minutes.
I guess to further illustrate my beta male identity on this show, I'd probably just wait it out, do a lot of eye rolls, and inadvertently do my part to make the whole table feel sorry for me.
It depends who you're with, though, right?
I don't really. It depends who you're with. I also don't really have an angry streak. You know, maybe it's different if you've got kids. Neither one of us has kids,
right?
And obviously that ups the ante and makes the
Kids
situation a little bit more stressful. But I'm not usually an angry person in general. Sarcastic, cocky, passive aggressive. I can do that, but I would never truly get angry if I just had to wait a little bit longer.
But what's a little bit?
I'd probably just order another drink, to be honest with you. That'd be the move.
See, I think at a certain point, and it's tough because everybody in the back of their head is thinking, are they going to spit in my meal? Which I don't, having worked in restaurants and knowing a lot of people who work in restaurants, I don't think that's the case. I think that's just sort of a fallacy. Maybe fast food, maybe that's a situation, but in a normal restaurant, I don't see that as happening. But let's say you and Kate are out at a standard issue, American place. You each order burgers. Kate gets a turkey burger and you get like a salmon burger. You get a cheeseburger. You get a bacon cheeseburger. So you expect them to be, cooked at the same rate-ish. Maybe yours takes a minute longer because you got bacon, whatever it is. If your burger is coming, let's say waiter comes over 10 minutes after Kate's burger arrives and is like, hey, it's just going to be another second. Sorry, we got backed up. You might be like, Man, 10 minutes is a long time. But you probably let it go. 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah, 15. Once I get to 10, I'm definitely following up with the server.
But at what point? Yeah, so what is your follow-up? Is your follow-up something like, listen,
hey,
me getting my burger.
You didn't forget about me, did you?
But okay, so at what point are you being assertive? At what point are you saying, listen, it's been 25 minutes. This isn't okay.
If Kate's finished her meal and I'm still waiting for mine.
In that case, will you say it's unacceptable?
Yeah, it's definitely unacceptable. But also, being a server in a restaurant is not always the easiest work.
Right.
All right. So I'm respectful of the fact that those folks got a lot going on, trying to manage a bunch of different things. And I also don't want to be that guy in the restaurant who's a jerk. But if she's finished, then I think it's time to be a little bit more assertive.
Are you a jerk, though, if your food hasn't come 20 minutes after? Even if she's just sort of finishing up and she's not
No, you're not a
done.
jerk. You're not a jerk. But again, I'm just trying to do my best to avoid conflict wherever possible.
But is it conflict? That's my question.
It feels like conflict.
Because if the waiter doesn't bring you your meal within 20 minutes of your dining partner, when she gets her meal,
it's
at that point, it's not the waiter having a tough job. It's the waiter being bad at his job.
I agree. All right. Where are we going next? We got a bunch of other stuff here.
I have a lot of thoughts on that.
You do. You're very thoughtful. Okay.
Is it necessary? Ooh, I like this because this is the flip side of the coin. We just talked about unacceptable waiting. Is it necessary, this comes to us from Diego, to apologize to a server when a member of the party acts like an a-hole? For example, snapping fingers, overly demanding. Is it necessary to apologize on behalf of somebody who is obviously clearly fine with their own terrible behavior?
I think so.
How do you pull off that maneuver?
Maybe not overtly, but yeah, if you have the opportunity to pull the server aside and say, hey, I'm sorry about, Uncle Bob down there. Yeah.
I feel like there's nothing that people agree on more than the discomfort everybody feels when one person is just so awful to somebody serving them food.
Yeah, right.
That it's the worst thing to be around. Snapping like, hey, hun. Oh, it's awful. It's the worst.
I agree. Okay.
Should you tip takeout, Ty?
No.
Okay. Explain your stance.
I've looked this up on the internet.
Is it absolute for you?
No, it's not absolute.
Okay.
No, I think it's more a frame of mind, a state of being, to be perfectly honest with you. But case in point, there is a great Asian restaurant right down the street that the solid wife and I have ordered from quite frequently. Drive down there all the time, pick up something on a Friday night. It's a good meal. I've had to look up multiple times on Google, what the standard protocol is for doing takeout. The internet seems to suggest, and I've looked it up multiple times because I didn't believe them the first 8 that I read it. The internet would seem to suggest that it's okay to go in, to pay the cost, to not tip, and to leave. That would not be my normal impulse, but the internet says it, so it must be true. Therefore,
of course,
I do my best to avoid tipping unless I'm feeling rather generous when I go to any takeout place. I believe that is accepted behavior.
I think that's okay. I think that's a fine way to live. My only caveat is, so I worked in takeout, like at a barbecue restaurant. I was in charge of takeout, getting the orders together, sending delivery guys off with their orders to deliver. And I would say with that experience, when I've been at restaurants that have been like very, very busy, where it's hectic, the phone's ringing, people are, waiting for their orders, and I get to the restaurant and they're still kind and just thoughtful, that's a good first step. And if it's something like, hey, we're swamped, it'll be like 3 minutes, it'll be like 5 minutes, is that cool? Like, obviously I don't have a choice in the matter, but like, giving you the heads up, like, sure, fine. And then they give you the food and it's something like, hey, I tossed in a couple extra garlic rolls for you. Thanks for being so patient.
If they're doing you a solid, then yeah.
Also, if you have like a personal relationship, like you see, a regular type of person, like you're going to this place once or twice a week and, you joke around with the person while they're waiting. There's a baseball game on and you crack a couple jokes together, something like that. I'll throw you $1 or $2. Just because it's not making a huge difference, but it's an acknowledgement of like, thanks for doing your job so well. I will do that. But with any normalcy, I generally tend not to. But, Ty, if it's a complex order and it's so complex that I feel better about ordering in a strange, inconvenient way that I'm actually going to check the order while I'm at the restaurant to make sure they got it right.
Then you'll do the tip.
and they got it right.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Thank you for being so attentive. You throw in a tip.
All right. Well, kind of on the heels of that question, Alec writes in. He says, what are the acceptable circumstances for not leaving a tip?
Yeah.
And I'll kind of expand this out here because we got a couple other tipping questions, but not leaving a tip, deciding how much tip to leave. What are the factors that you consider?
How the server was just as a human talking to you, you know, paying attention. If it takes forever for them to even come over to your table, if it takes forever for you to, like, if all of these things add up, it takes forever them come over and acknowledge you, takes forever to come get your drink order, takes forever to bring you your drinks, takes forever to take your actual food order, takes forever for the food to come out, you know, no apologies, no explanation. You know, sometimes there's just like one server for 40 tables and it's just a mess. When there's no explanation, when they're dismissive, when they try to upsell everybody, and just when they waste your time. I won't say that I won't tip them outright, but it's probably not going to be a great move from my wallet to yours.
I've never not left a tip because
I don't think I've done that either. Yeah.
I recognize that it's a chaotic job. It's a hard job. I've never worked in a restaurant, but everyone knows someone who has. It's not an easy job. There's a lot going on. So I respect that. The floor for me is 10%. The absolute floor for me is 10%. And that is someone who is not attentive, screws up the order, isn't nice. All of those factors could contribute to a 10% tip. Generally, though, 20% is the average. And if someone's really nice, we'll move it up a little bit. Throw them a few extra bucks if it's someone who's really just enhancing the dining experience.
Ty, this comes to us from Josh. Is it ever okay for two people on a date to sit next to each other on the same side of the table?
Good question.
I'm not talking about a dinner date with another couple. This is just two people who choose to sit next to each other, like at a table for four, or like, you know, a table that's meant for two sitting across from each other, but then they go to the same small side of the table and leave two vacant seats across from them.
Wow.
That's from Josh. Everybody's seen this.
Yeah.
I assume. Have you done this, and how do you feel about it when you see it?
You know, I have done it.
Okay.
And the primary reason I've done it.
Under the table stuff?
No.
Okay.
The primary reason I've done it is because some restaurants are very loud. And if you're in a situation where you'd like to have a conversation, but the restaurant's too loud, then it behooves you to sit on the same side. Never for any like romantic purposes, anything like that.
Right.
Purely for the sake of having a conversation. I feel like I've been programmed from such an early age to sit on the opposite side to balance out the table.
Eye contact, man. Yeah.
That it just feels awkward to me to be on the same side like that.
What about sharing a corner?
Sharing a corner, I think, is a little different.
Sure.
It's a little different. And if you're at a square table, you know, to be on adjacent sides of the square, I think is fine.
It's fine. Yeah.
But in the bench scenario, that to me is just different. It's beyond the norm. I know some people swear by. I'm just not into that thing.
Here's where I would say it's acceptable. One, under the table stuff, aforementioned.
Okay.
You know,
Fair.
Who am I to judge?
Fair.
Who am I to judge?
Fair.
Number two, if you are someplace that has a view for one person, but not a view for somebody else. If you're on an outdoor patio that's overlooking the cliffs and the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah.
Why do I have to sit with my back to this beautiful view? I think you find a way. It doesn't have to be both of you facing it exactly, but you angle a little bit on the same side. I think that's totally defensible. Three, I would say if you are in a situation where the people watching is like I was in Paris last year with the Solid Fiancé, and a lot of the tables are actually like those are how the chairs are positioned.
Right.
They're small tables built for two, but you're on it's a sidewalk cafe. You're eating like cheese, you're drinking wine, whatever it is, and you get to look at Paris together. That's unique for me. I don't know if it's unique for you, but that is a unique experience for me, and I felt totally comfortable sitting on the same side of the table and chilling on a Parisian street. So I think it is acceptable for any of those reasons, but most notably under the table stuff.
Okay, fair enough. Let's do two more.
Okay. I'm trying to see. What is your personal tip percentage scale based on service / what's the least you've ever tipped? We went over the second part.
Yeah.
But Ty, what is your personal, and this is very personal.
It is. It's extremely personal.
What is your tipping scale? Will you go over 20? Will you go under 15 if it's not abysmal?
Like I said, I generally go 20.
Okay.
20 is usually the starting point. 10 is the floor. I have been known to sometimes go above 20, but only in cases of
what are the
exceptional.
Circumstances? Yeah, what does exceptional mean to you?
Server has to have a sense of humor.
Okay.
Someone who comes over who, again, enhances the dining experience.
Mm-hmm.
Overly eager to serve.
Sure.
And if they've got jokes, then I think the jokes are worth a couple extra bucks. It's usually a joke thing for me. Or if they go above and beyond, if they throw in something extra, then I'll go above 20.
I'm real easy, Ty. I generally go around at 20. But if a server, so I'm a big sauce guy, as you know.
Right.
So if I order a club sandwich with a side of barbecue sauce, or if I order a burger and I want a side of like Thousand Island to dip my fries in because that's delicious, and they bring me 2 sides, like, hey, you made a point of saying you like, a side of barbecue, so I brought you a couple of them. Like, I'm so easy to melt like that, Ty. Extra sauce will do it for me every time. Jokes are fine. Personality is great. Really good recommendations if you don't know what to order, and they're like, no, get the crispy duck, and it's outstanding. That's when I might go over.
I will also add one other scenario here, and this works 100% of the time on me.
Yeah.
Any instance in which it seems like I'm sticking it to the man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, hey, somebody ordered this drink, but they left. You wouldn't be interested in it for free, would you? Absolutely. Oh,
got to do something with it.
We accidentally made this extra order of fries. Would you be interested? Absolutely.
That's of course.
And it works, even if they're lying. It works
Right.
on me 100% of the time if I feel like I'm sticking it to the man.
You bring me a free dessert? Hey, this one's on the house. Oh,
Yeah,
please. I'll make up for that in the tip. Absolutely.
100%.
All right, let's close out with a hypothetical, Ty. We haven't done one in a while, and it's
Okay.
sort of related.
Sure.
Do we have the sound, or do you want me to make it myself?
I'd like to hear you make it. That was beautiful. Okay.
That was pretty good. Okay, we came up with this today in the office. It's related to food. It's related to physique. Ty, would you rather be your fully maximized physical self?
Okay.
It sounds dirtier than intended.
Right.
Would you rather be jacked to the level that you would ideally like to be jacked to?
Okay.
So strength, 6-pack, 8-pack, you've got, big muscles, lean muscles, whatever. You're tan, you look exactly physically like you believe you are maxed out.
Okay.
And no matter what you eat, you will not change physically. You want pizza every night for the rest of your life, you are still going to look like that Ty, that ideal Ty.
Okay.
But on the inside, it will still do you a lot.
It'll
of
still
damage.
ravage your body. Right.
It will still, your cholesterol, your blood pressure, your sodium levels, your arteries, whatever. So you got to balance the fact that you're not going to get fat and you're going to look like your ideal self with the fact that you are still going to do damage to the inside.
Okay.
Or you are forever going to be as you are, and you won't have extreme fluctuations. You'll probably be, you can gain or lose 2-5 pounds, whatever, something like that. But you're never going to be your fully realized self. You're never going to be jacked. You're never going to be ripped. You're never going to be yoked. You're never going to be as tan as you want.
No, right.
And you can't eat whatever you want without gaining weight. But you can eat whatever you want, and it will do no damage to you on the inside. So you can eat as much pizza as you want. You need many burritos, as much queso. And your blood pressure remains the same. You're not going to get all that fat. You'll gain a little bit of weight, but nothing extreme given your extreme diet.
Right.
Everything will stay the same on the inside.
See, I'm inclined to say that I'd prefer the fully physically maximized version of myself. Okay.
Live hot, die young.
Whatever I eat now affects the inside of my body. I might not be my fully realized self, but I'm used to that situation where you kind of have to figure out, okay, is this good for me? Is this not good for me?
Sure.
So it's sort of like everyday life right now, with the exception of I don't have to go to the gym nearly as often.
So you'd rather be jacked than have nutritional freedom?
I think so, because I don't have nutritional freedom now.
Well, you would have nutritional freedom if you look like what you look like. You can eat whatever you want, and it's fine.
I think I'm used to where I'm at now. Let's take the fully maximized version of myself and let's just deal with it as best we can.
I think I'm taking number 2.
Yeah?
I think I'm taking option number 2. Because there's so many meals that I have are like, ugh.
Well, see, you would be a good person for number 2.
Right.
I'm content eating like a bird every day, the same thing day in, day out. I don't necessarily need the variety and the level of sophistication in the palate that you seem to.
Salads are just such bummers, Ty.
I'm a salad guy. I like salad.
I know. Oh,
I'm okay with it.
It's rough.
Eat one every day.
I think I'm going number 2.
Okay.
And that's a weird thing to say out loud.
Very weird thing to close out the show with.
Think I'm going number 2.
Fair enough.
There it is. I stand by it.
On that note, don't forget to check out our good friends over at Proper Cloth. Something's always off when you try to get a dress shirt. Luckily now, ordering a custom fit shirt has never been easier thanks to Proper Cloth. They guarantee a perfect fit, meaning that if somehow your shirt doesn't fit, they will acquit. They'll make it for free.
Good job.
Stop wearing shirts that don't fit. Propercloth.com/solid. Gift code SOLID. Save $20 on your first shirt. Dan Rubenstein.
That's all I got.
Enjoy the rest of your week wherever you are.
Ah, man. The Grecian air.
The rest of your trip. For that guy over there, Dan Rubenstein, in parts unknown. For myself, Ty Hildenbrandt, here in good old US of A. Catch you next week in the Solid Verbal. Stay solid.
Peace.